All right, let's get down to business. Let's start animating. Well, actually, first, we're not going to animate. First, we're going to talk about some ways that we can trigger our animations, which is equally important. At least in the early stages, we need a way of starting animations. We need something to cause them. I could show you how to animate things just as soon as the page loads, have something happen immediately, but that's a pretty rare thing. Usually animations are triggered by a scroll or a click or a hover often. So there's more than that, but those are some of the more common things. Or submitting a form, hitting the enter key instead of an input, those sort of things. We'll start by talking about these triggers, these state changes in CSS, and then soon we'll see how to connect them, if you will, to animations. All right. So the keyword is pseudo classes, CSS3 pseudo classes. You may have heard them called pseudo selectors as well. On the corresponding MDN page, which I have open here, it's also in the resources for this lecture, there is a pseudo classes page. Essentially, pseudo classes are special selectors that you add on actually to another selector that I'll just read, that specifies a special state of the selected elements. So they're relatively new in the grand scheme of CSS. They haven't been around that long. They always start with a colon, as you can see here, selector colon pseudo class, and they allow you to select things based off of particular states. So in our case, we're going to care about 3 for now: hover, focus, and active. So we'll go into each one of those shortly, but there are a bunch of other ones. And I just want to be clear, not all of these are used to trigger things like animations. This is not a particularly cohesive group of pseudo classes. They vary a lot. They range in what they do, what they select. Not all of them have to do with something the user does, like hovering or clicking on a button, like the ones we'll focus on. Some of them are very, very different. So if you are not familiar with some of these, if you took my last course, I talked a lot about nth child, nth of type. Those don't have anything to do with animations really, although they could, but traditionally they don't. Okay, so let's kick it off by talking about hover.